Dear students, welcome and thank you for tuning in. We are continuing our discussion about cells interaction with biomaterials as part of the Biomaterials 1 class. In this video, we are going to learn how the immune system cells build up the innate and adaptive immune responses. So in the previous videos, we talked about the immune system in general, and then we talked about the different cells in the immune system, and then we went and focused on three types of cells, which are the T cells, B cells, and the phagocytes. How are those three cell types build their innate and adaptive immune responses? A quick review about the innate and adaptive immune responses. We said the innate immune response is the fast-acting first response system. It's a pathogen non-specific, so it's the same no matter what enters inside the body, and it does not alter itself on repeated exposures to a given infectious agent. So it's the same response over and over again. So there is no build-up or different reactions if you have multiple exposures. This is our innate immune system. And if you look at this image here, this schematic, it represents how the innate immune system will start. This is a highly simplified diagram of the immune response. This is skin, there's a cut in the skin, this is a breach of our barrier, and then you have these microbes, and they should not be inside the body. The cells in our body recognize them as intruders, and they should be eliminated and neutralized. So the first responders as part of our innate immune system are cells, we call them dendritic cells, and they are characterized by these long arms. Those dendritic cells, after the microbes get in, they got engulfed by these cells, and they are in our skin. They're part of the skin structure. So the microbes enter through the break in the skin, are then phagocytosed. They will be engulfed by the dendritic cells. Now, these cells will destroy the antigens, the microbe, into smaller pieces, into their lysosomes. And the lysosomes are microorganelles inside the cells that they have low pH, which is acidic. So they engulf it and they destroy this microbe into smaller pieces. These smaller pieces are proteins and antigens, and we call them antigens because they're part of that microbe. When the microbe gets destroyed and digested into smaller parts, the dendritic cells will take these antigens and place them on their surface. So dendritic cells matures and carries the microbial antigens. Microbial antigens are proteins of the microbe, smaller proteins of the microbes. And they place them on the surface, and they move to the closest lymph node to become antigen-presenting cells. This is showing us how things are moving and how our body is reacting and responding to intruders. So engulfing, digestion, presenting the antigens on the surface, and then moving to the closest lymph node. Once the cells, the dendritic cells, move to the lymph node, this is the end of our innate immune response. So anything enters the body, these cells will do the same for it, right? And then they go to the lymph node where the adaptive immune response starts. Our innate immune response is characterized by consuming and expressing. So we'll consume the antigens, express them on the surface, and then go to the lymph node. The microbial antigen on the surface of the dendritic cells, when they go to the lymph node, they will be presented there to the cells of the adaptive immune system. And we characterize the adaptive immune system as highly specific to the antigen because now we have a protein that we want to target, and improves with successive exposures, and implements cellular memory because we have cells that they can stay and ready for the next exposure. And this is actually what happened when we have immunization. When you get an immunization and the vaccine, you are trying to build your adaptive immune system so that when the microbe or the intruders comes next time, you will be much better prepared to attack it and eliminate it and stop all the damage that could happen there. So in the adaptive immune system here, we have the dendritic cells with the antigen presented on the surface. In the adaptive immune system, these dendritic cells will stimulate T cells, and they will activate these T cells and tell them, well, okay, those are the antigens you need to attack, the red ones, because the ones that we digested, and now go and search for these antigens and kill them yourself. This is part of the adaptive immune response. So antigen presenting cells activates the T cells to respond to microbial antigens, and then the T cells will move from the lymph node into the location of the injury based on the inflammatory signals that the body is receiving. And this is the closest lymph node, by the way. So this is a quick description of the innate and adaptive immune response and how our body reacts to it, and what kind of cells that they are responsible for that. Now, remember the T cells, we said we have killer T cells, cytotoxic T cells that kills the microbe. But we said also we have helper T cells that they're going to activate B cells. And the B cells, they don't originate from the lymph nodes like the T cells. They originate from the bone marrow, and they are everywhere in the bloodstream. Helper T cells will activate B cells, and the activation of B cells is going to create another response that help the that is part of the adaptive immune response and help to eliminate those microbes. So for the B cells, when they are activated by the antigens or by the helper T cells, so B cells can be activated by helper T cells or by the antigens themselves, the microbes. They will proliferate. So this is a B cell. It will be activated. Then if you have a star here, it means it's activated by either T cells, helper T cells, or by the antigen itself, the microbes. They're activated. They have two paths. They either proliferate and make more of them to create something called plasma cells. These plasma cells will secrete antibodies. Those antibodies, the functionality of them is just to neutralize the antigens. Remember, proteins have active sites. So if a microbe gets into the body, it has a protein that has an active site that will create damage. The antibody's job is to cover this active site so that it does not create damage anymore. So that's how the B cells help in our adaptive immune response. So B cells got activated, proliferate, make more of them, and then they become plasma cells that will secrete antibodies to eliminate the active sites of the antigens, the functional sites of the antigens. Now, other B cells will proliferate, but they're not going to mature to create antibodies. They will just stay in the bloodstream, ready to attack when needed. We call them memory cells. So they will stay for long times. Anytime we have the antigen again, or we're exposed to the antigen again, or the microbe or the intruders, they will be activated and they will secrete the antibodies quickly. They don't have to go to the cycle one more time. So we have plasma cells, those they are, and we have other persists as activated B cells that they stay in the bloodstream in case they're needed. So dendritic cells, they are considered one of the phagocytes, right? Because they engulf and take, digest cells. Then this is how they activate the T cells. T cells will have helper T cells, which will activate the B cells, and this is how our immune system reacts. Now, for us as engineers and biomaterialists, when we place or implant any material inside the body, the same reaction will happen. Cells will recognize the material, if it's not biocompatible, as an intruder, and they will stimulate the immune response in order to eliminate and neutralize the material because it's not part of the body. And we will talk more and more about how this is happening and how can we mitigate these responses and what are the biocompatible and what is biocompatibility in terms of material, not in terms of microbes and viruses or antigens. Thank you for watching. Until the next video. Bye.